material flow, information flow, and then that's kind of work for the supply chain. Uh, we have like a definition of the supply chain management. In the definition, you can see that they're trying to optimize the material flow and then information flow. And then this finance flow is we see that at the almost end of the semester, and then using one case, and then we see that with the slide. So that's another flow that you can maybe consider for your future career in the supply chain management. And then you compare like the logistics and supply chain. You compare the definition about the supply chain logistics, and like the supply chain kind of this is not all the people agrees about this one, but like more people agree that the difference between the supply chain logistics as a supply chain into the logistics. Right? So this figure shows you that how the relationship, what are the topic is included in the logistics, and then what is kind of the more concepts added to the logistics in the supply chain management. So like a supply chain management, they're kind of the interested of managing the supplier, not only for the movement of the information and the movement of the flow, flow of the material. Also, they are interested in the like a supply itself. So like the concept we did in in the semester was like an extra supply. Right? So that kind of concept is like the scope of the supply chain management, and that concept is kind of differentiated the supply chain and logistics. So in supply chain management, they want to see that the supplier and then also like the financial flow as well. So yeah, this one is they're kind of moving like from like we want to see that there's some change from like one global supply chain to regional supply chain. So and this one, like these slides are from the slides of knowledge the E-class. I did not make it new one, so I only made these two slides for the final review, and then these are from the slides from the slide already on the review. So these are the kind of kind of the topic in the supply chain management. So and then this was the reason we want to see that the supply chain management. Right? So they moved and then you can see that in this the definition and this definition there is there's a lot of it. They touch about the like movement flow and the movement with information. Right? So these are kind of the like a traditional definition of the supply chain management. So if I add told you before for the kind of the example for the one of the short answer, if I give you like this kind of sentence, then your answer should be supply chain management. Right? So and then we move to the critical path method. Right? So in this section, maybe you see some calculation problem at the final. So we had like a single time activity problem to find out the critical path and the slack activity, and how we take to finish the project and so on. That was a definition of this. So that's kind of the beginning of and that's kind of the way, the point we start to understand the critical path method. So, and then we move to 3-time estimated. So which means that we had a most likely and minimum maximum time, and then we calculate the estimated expected time for each activity. And then the differences that we have to know that the barriers. Right? So that was one of the main difference between the single time activity problem and then the three time estimated problem. So in three time activity problem is that we had these three different time, and then using this formula we can find out the expected time for each activity, and then we solved it, we found out the critical path and the select activity and so on. That was a same process of the single time activity time activity, and then to see that the probability to finish the certain activity in certain time, that activity in certain time. So for example, if the project time, this one is let's say 35, and then from this one you're gonna see that if the project time for these activities are like a 35, and then maybe you're gonna see that the percentage of finishing this one in like a 32 weeks or the 33 weeks, or like it can be like more than 35, which is a 37 weeks, right? So this is a project time, which is from you figure out that from the using expect time, and then the critical path. That is on the sum of the expected time in the critical path, and then you'll have this project time, and then using the variation, you can see that the kind of expected time, the probability to finish this one in certain like a certain time, for example 33 or 37. And one thing you should know is that you added the variance that is on the critical path, right? Not the older variance. If let's say the A, C, and E and G are on the critical path, to find the variance of the project time then you just use a variance of this one and this one and this one and that one. So you don't add all the variance, right? So then you can find out the probability to finish that project in certain time. So, and last one is that actually this is kind of the reason that we study the project management, right? So this was a kind of process, right? So we start from the single time activity because there's not many variable you should consider for this one, and then this one we consider like three different time, and then also we want to see that the variances, and that's the kind of second step for the project management, and then the critical path, and then this one is a kind of this one is a goal for the reason we study the critical path method, right? So, and the reason we find that the critical path was that like for example, this one is this diagram, let's say, and then this one is the critical path, right? So, if we want to reduce the project time, then we want to see that we have to find out or identify which one we should reduce the activity time, right? So if this one, these three are on the critical path, and then if you don't have that information, maybe, and then if you let's say the activity time for this one is 4, and then we reduce that by the 3 time, it will not impact on our project time, right? So that's the reason we study the critical CPN, right? So we have to find out which activities are critical path, and then which are the slack time, which one has a slack time activity. And then the thing that we should consider is like a cost per the day to expedite, right? So first thing is that we choose like smallest one, which is 2 or not the 4 and 3, and then we choose that one because that minimizes our cost. So, and then And then the thing you should know that is that if you reduce the activity time, then our critical path can be changing, right? So it was a critical path. Let's say this one is a 5, and this one is another 5, and this one is 3. Then this one, if A, this is a A, and this is a B, this is a C, this is a C, and this is a D, and then A, B, C is a critical path, used to critical path, right? So, but this activity time is 4, and then if we reduce this one, B, from the 5 to 4, then we have the 2 critical paths, right? So A, B, C, and A, B, D, and A, C. D is also critical path because their their credit time, some of the credit time is, some of the activity time is the same for those 2 passes, right? So you should know that. Because of that, here that we choose A, not B, not B, because it did not B or C, because even their cost is the smaller than the A, let's say to reduce 1 day for the B and C is a 3 and the 2 respectively, we choose A. Because even they're more expensive to reduce 1 day, because at the B and C, if you choose B to expedite, and then if you reduce that by 3, you can see that we still have the A, C, and D as our critical time, right? So that means that we cannot reduce our total critical time, so that's why we choose A as a next candidate to reduce the total credit time. And then the next concept was a grid effect, right? So maybe you have a lot of the ideas of the grid effect already. So there's a variation goes expanded from retailers to supplier, and then that causes like this kind of a problem for the supply chain. So, so they cause some issues in the supply chain, and also these slides are already on the class. This one too. And then you can see that how the impact of the supply, the grid effect on supply chain. And those are the causes, right? So those were the causes of this grid effect. So there were like the information, the problem, or the pricing behavior. So those are all the information issue, right? So those are the information or lead time, and they are the kind of main reason that causes the grid effect. And then if we go back to the case study, as I told you before, we compare like Zara and Uniqlo, and then even they're in the same industry. The reason we studied that one was that even they're in the same industry, we can choose like a different option, right? Different supply chain strategy. So there might be, of course, there is kind of the fit between the product type, and then we studied that one too, right? So there's a fit between the product type of the product, and then the type of the strategy of the supply chain, right? So like a functional product has a better fit with the efficient supply chain, and then the innovative product has a better fit with the responsive supply chain. But even like same industry means that they are having almost same product type, but the maybe Zara definition of their product may be different from the Uniqlo maybe. So they want to have the short like a small batches of the product, and then they think their product like like a shirt or the kind of product is more innovative, and they define their product as a more short product cycle and so on. So that's why they define and they use like a response supply chain, not like efficient supply chain. So Uniqlo, compared to Zara, Uniqlo defined their product as a more functional product. So they think that they have a longer product life cycle than the product life cycle, and then they think their goal is reduce their production costs, and then the transportation costs. So that's why even in the same industry, depending on their definition of their product, they have a different strategy, supply chain strategy. That's why we want to see that those two companies. And then the Lian Feng was another company, and then I think I mentioned about the, like free capacity, and the free capacity was in the what is it? One was introduced in the TFC as well, and then if you're the purchasing department, that there was one of the options to choose your supplier was at the level of the free capacity for your supplier, right? In that function, you can see that there, in TFC, you can see that whether your supplier has a 50% of the free capacity or 30 or 90. Right? So if there's a more free capacity, means that your supplier has a more capability to handle your if you increase the order, then you can handle that. Let's say your supplier don't have a zero capacity, that means that zero free capacity. It means that if you let's say your average demand is 100, but you have a more demand, and then from the customer, and then if you want to order more to your supplier, let's say from 100 to 200, then your supplier cannot handle that one, right? So like a Lian Feng, they want to kind of control and monitor, and then also visualize, have a visibility for not only for their capability to produce product, but also they want to have some visibility for their capacity or free capacity for the supply chain supplier. So their Lian Feng, even they're like a global company, but since they're not producing retail product, so they're not retail brand. So we like a customer like us does not have we are not familiar with their brand. But if you're, as I told you, they studying like a supply chain logistics, maybe this company is one of the company like similar as a Zara. Maybe that company is one of the company. Maybe you should know for like having the supply chain strategy in that area. So, and then we compare Walmart and what is it, the Amazon, and then they're like and then their concept was like Amazon, their logistics. So their concept was all the logistics, like Walmart and Amazon, and they're all retail industry, and Walmart start from the offline, Amazon start from the online, but as you can see, like inventory strategy or the logistic was their kind of the key competitiveness over their competitor. So logistics is also investment for them, and the supply chain, like in beginning of the history of the Walmart, they invest a lot of the logistic like function, like they had a trucking system. I mean, satellite trucking system, and then they had a lot of the logistic logistic system to have a competitiveness for the company. And then Amazon also started from not having the inventory, but they invest like a warehouse and then inventory, and then that makes the Amazon for having the long-run competitiveness. So that's why we use this one. And then so that was like more like an inventory. So we study in retail, but there was like all about the inventory. So in the inventory, we had we see that there's a different types of inventory. So, and then we had in this one, as I think I mentioned, you don't need to calculate this one for the exam, but the things I want to emphasize for this one is a kind of relationship, because that there's you can see that if you have a more quick order, then it will increase, of course, order cost. But if you have the order cost, but if you have the frequent order, then your average inventory cost goes down. So has a relation with the small batch and the large batch too. So this one is if you had a large EOQ, let's say, then you had throughout this period you only order 3 times, right? But your average inventory level is higher than the small batch. Right? So if you had a small batch, then you had to frequent order, right? And then your inventory load level was lower than having the large batch. So from this formula, I want to just emphasize that how those two, like a frequency of the order and then your average inventory level. And then for this one too, we had some metrics about the inventory. So there's a turnover ratio, and then they are also related with the supply chain finance too. And like a small batch and high batch, large batch. So those are can compare those. And this section is about from the supply chain finance, right? So supply chain finance, they relate with the inventory and then the cash flow. And Dora, in this Dora, so it's about the resilience, and then we see that the inventory, how the inventories are there with the performance of the company. And then I think I mentioned this one in the nowadays like a someday, and then some companies are using this one already, or they prepare not only for the parts, they prepare the sequence, the part as a considering the sequence to manufacture or assemble the product. So let's say I think I used some boxes before. So let's say we need like these 3 parts to produce the product, and then just in time maybe we need one of these one. Then at the time we had a box, and then they prepare 3 different parts, and then that was the kind of concept of just just in time, and just the sequences they consider the sequence to assemble the product. So let's say we need this part first, and then we need this one second, next one, and this one is the last one. Then they prepare the part as considering the sequence of the assembly, the parts assemble the product. Okay, that was the concept for that one. And then in make to buy the chapter, like a purchasing chapter slides, we see that reason to make and reason to buy, and then we see that this one is the same as that one, right? So we consider the competitiveness of the product and the strategic importance of the product, and we can decide whether we're going to outsource, we're going to retain as our product, or the function. So we had some metrics as a purchasing chapter. Right? We had 2 metrics. One is about the deciding whether to buy or make, and then the other was we had if you had different types of supplier, and then we cannot make a long-term relationship with the older supplier. So depending on the risk of the finding supplier, and then the importance of the profit, the portion of the profit, we can categorize the supplier in 4 different ways. So that was another matrix in the purchasing chapter. So in the Boeing case, they were about they were another case of the purchasing, right? Or the outsource. And we see that the next supplier concept. So just trying to understand the definition of the next supplier. And then we see at the supply chain finance chapter, we have the definition of definition of this one, and then we had some relation. We see that the relationship between the inventory and the cash flow. You don't have to calculate the numbers in here. So, and then as I told you before earlier, as a Zara, and comparing Zara and the Uniqlo, there's some fit between the product type or the type of the supply chain. So we had some product has a better fit with the responsive supply chain, and other types of the product has a better fit with the efficient supply chain. So maybe that's how the company defines their product. So, and then this one is from we changed that one from that concept to the shelf life, which was introduced in the TFC. So in high shelf life means that we give it's more like a resilient supply chain. So we give we try to have a short period of time to hold the inventory at our warehouse, and then we try to give more selling time to allow the selling time to our customer. So to achieve that one at the TFC, we should have like a small batches, not having the large batch, right? And then the risk of this small batch was that there are more chances that we have the stock up. And then this large batch, there is more small chances that we'll have the stock out. But the small batch means that we also in the same time, but we can have the a lower level of the inventory compared to large batch. And then that was our concept. This slide is also this one is from the slide which I told you earlier, which is the slide name. File name is the Fresh Connection 26. Yeah, so that was kind of all kind of the review all the final. So as you can see that the definition of the supply chain, of course, and then we start from that one. We do like some inventory, and then the brief facts, and the project management, and then we try to see each cases, and then try to link them with the definition of the inventory, and then the supply chain finance, and so on. So try to use the each cases to understand the concept more in detail. And so, and then we see that the purchasing chapters too. Any 혹시 질문 혹시 있을까요? 질문 없어요? 일단 다시 설명해주면. 요런 다 다른 아까 계속 얘기한 so as I told you there's instead for the introducing explaining about a little bit about linking the concept of the cases and the concept and then the case. All other slides are from the slide which is a PDF already uploaded the e-class, right? So maybe like 5 or 6 pages are kind of new, and then other slides are all from the PDF at the class. 이렇게 아마 뭐 이런 것도 그렇고 다 이 클래스에서 있는 거고요. 이거 전부 다. 그리고 아까 말한 것처럼 케이스가 연결된 것만 새로운 슬라이드고 나머지는 다 있는 슬라이드고요. 그래서 아까 말한 것처럼 요거 준비하시는 거예요. 요거는 뭐 말 그대로 시험 문제 하나를 알고 시작하는 거라고 생각할 수도 있고, 그래서 이렇게 하시면 준비하시면 되고, 케이스 아까 설명을 했지만 내가 케이스를 시험에서 생각보다 이렇게 허무하게 너무 안 물어볼 수도 있는데 케이스를 저는 아까 말한 것처럼 이렇게 그때 한번 누군가 물어서 설명했는데 내가 이렇게 예를 들어서 케이스로 예를 들 수 있어요. 그거를 케이스 이런 걸 알면 더 문제를 정확하게 이해할 수 있겠지만 없어도 답은 할 수 있을 거예요. 없어도 답은 할 수 있을 건데 조금 더. So I mean, all the cases, if you don't have if you have something like the why, if you have ideas about the why we study that cases, might be enough for the pre-project for the final. So you don't need to have a detailed concept of understand the case study. But however, since I was trying to introduce you about and explain about the case, how the case is linked to the old concept, also help you to kind of review the cases because we did the cases right after the midterm. So some cases like the PNG was a kind of recent one, but the Zara and the Uniqlo, Walmart and Amazon was like about about a month ago, right? So I'm trying to review that one. But even you don't have the idea about the cases, maybe you we may be able to answer the question. But if you have the idea about the cases, I mean how the cases link to each concept, maybe you have the better understanding that the question, right? So because sometimes maybe there might be some problem about the understanding what I'm asking you. So try to, if you have the ideas about that, it helps you to answer the question more correctly. So if you have more questions, then you can